Hey everybody, it's Jillian. So I noticed that I have a few trolls and a lot of the younger audience out there that listens to PewDiePie and maybe Jeff Holiday, I don't know. And some other, trolls out there that are critics of J Juice. And I want to give you a word of advice. The mainstream media, like Dr. Phil and all of the different college educated, subjective professionals out there, don't like Jilly Juice, don't understand Jilly Juice because they fail to see how everything is connected. A lot of your teachers and professors have been very trained in subjective subject matter. And so they might understand superficial connections with other functional silos. Functional silos are functionally driven departments or categories out there that have a specific purpose, but the college system, the educational system doesn't connect the dots. And so your education, your training in college and in high school and in elementary school trains you to only understand parts of the system, but not understand the connections of the system as a whole. So what happens is when somebody actually challenges the system and connects all the dots and then has a different intention and a different purpose, it goes against a belief system and an ideology that is taught in college and in high schools. And so I remember when I was in fourth grade or fifth grade, and there was these kids that would go off to this program called the GATE program. And it's for gifted and intelligent children and all of that. And I'm thinking what is it about these kids that make them so much more special than me or other kids in the class? Well, I come to find out these kids were they were intelligent. Yeah, they're intelligent. Yes, I'm intelligent too. But they were the type of kids that really took to conforming to the way the educational system is set up, to where you are obeying, you are retaining, memorizing dates and formulas and learning specific things. Some of these kids in the GATE program have very specific talents in subject matters. And so what these schools do is they go and foster these strengths in specific areas, and then they call it intelligence. And then some of us kids that were never in the GATE program, we had a more objective way of looking at things. We weren't so tunneled in one area. We had strengths in a lot of different areas, but that's not fostered in the educational system. They want you to be very, very subjective, very talented in one area, so then they can mold you in a specific way and then gear you towards a specific profession that will help get that profession, whatever it is, make a lot of money in the, out there in the market, the open market. And so you have to know that when you're in school, there is a specific agenda that you have to conform to. And if you're having trouble in school, or you have issues, you have problems in your family, or if you have trouble in school, or you're bullying someone like me who has a different way of looking at information and looking at the world, you're going to find that you are a victim of subjective agendas that don't want you to have a bigger bird's eye view of how the system works. Because they want you to be very tunneled, very pigeonholed in a specific subject matter so they can mold you in a specific way. And so if you find that you have conflict in school, especially with your teachers, with the principals, with the professors, and you want to have more of a bird's eye view and an objective point of view, and they want you to be very subjective, and you are an objective personality type, you're going to have conflict. And then you will also lash out at someone like me because I represent something that the schools don't like. I represent a different thought process, a freedom of thought. And I had my own issues with the school system, with my parents, with the professors and teachers when they want me to be in a specific way, and I refuse the programming. So you have to know when you're in school, you are being programmed to be a very tunneled person. And if you don't have very specific talents or strengths, they're not going to foster your objective way of doing things. They want you to be only good at one certain thing, because that's how they're going to plug you into parts of the system. And then you will only know that one industry. So that's why mothers and fathers out there want to get their kids figured out in some kind of, specialty and subject matter, and some kind of college that really fosters something that's going to make them a lot of money, like doctors and lawyers and maybe teachers. Technology, where you're coding or doing something in the computer industry, computer science or engineering, like all those really, really, really technical industries. They want those kind of kids because that's how they're going to go and mold them into a specific way to then make that company a lot of money. And then what happens is then you are being used up by the system and thrown away. And then you're not really contributing to the evolution of humanity. You're actually contributing to the subjective, I would say, I don't know how to say this, destruction of humanity when you think about it. Because you're not doing anything new or different. You're just another widget in the system that serves to kind of use people up and throw them away. And so, so when you look at some of these corporations, like some of you that are in high school and you're looking at your future, trying to figure out where the hell you're going to be, and you look at these corporations where, it's like this big, huge building like life insurance, and somebody called it the velvet coffin. People who go into life insurance and work for a company, and they're like at 18 years old, they call it the velvet coffin because they start off at the bottom and then they die at the same desk they worked at. Maybe they went to different departments, but they die. They're almost like born in that company and they die in that company. And so they call it the velvet coffin, some of these corporations. And I used to work in those offices. I would go into like this big, huge building, beautiful foyer, and the guards with their their walkie-talkies and the nice elevators. And then you open up to then a foyer to these different floors, and there's a receptionist. And then you have behind the receptionist is all like almost like a boiler room, or just rows and rows and rows of different cubicles, as well as in different offices. And then you have a conference room, and it seems so like, oh, hoity-toity, but your life there is short-lived. Now, you can revolutionize or evolutionize corporations to where it's not a velvet coffin. There's a different, and I don't know what that's going to look like, as far as the Jilly Juice world. What are we going to do as far as like Jilly Juice, and how are we going to evolutionize the different industries out there? Okay. And so, if you're a high school student and you're looking at my information, you're seeing all the backlash. You're seeing me represent what I was like when I was a kid, bucking the system, not resisting the programming. I resisted the programming in elementary school. I kind of conformed a little bit during my middle school years, and then I resisted programming in high school. And then I went out in the world, I explored the world, see where the needs were, talked to information behind me. I traveled to different places. I got to know different people. I went to different offices. I was a temp in different companies, so I understood how these companies were run. I just absorbed so much knowledge and so many experiences, because at some point that will be in your back pocket as a tool for then you to figure out where the need is in our site, and then you develop something that's going to revolutionize the world. But, simply just going to college and being a widget and being turned out by the system isn't exactly my cup of tea, and I didn't like that future. And some of you are looking at your future going like, what the hell am I going to do? You're on this very predictable path that you're seeing how your parents are, and yeah, they have a nice house somewhere in the hills somewhere, okay. But then you see that the market's all tanking and things are really unstable. You're like, where the hell is my future going to be? And so the way to get off that train of that rat race of just being turned out and being a widget in this system is to change your biochemistry to where you then see a different path for yourself, and you could still conform to a certain extent, but you know that there's a lot more life experience you need to tap into before you make a decision. Because let me tell you, right now, you see who the billionaires are. You see the gap between the rich and poor. It's pretty huge. And so, it's going to be very few and far between that are going to make a shit ton of money. You know how much student loans are out there? People are going to college and then there's no jobs out there that are going to really pay off their debt or, give them the living that their parents had. So some people are living off their parents, they're trust fund kids. But there isn't a lot of how many people in Ohio here where I live are trust fund kids? No, they go to college for like a little bit, they drop out, they end up working for some convenience store. They had these dreams to be some kind of forensic this, and then then life happens and their hormones happen, and now they have like 10 kids, and now they're just another widget in the system of destruction. And so, if you do the Jilly Juice, you could have a totally different future. But if you want to troll my page and you want to be mean and you want to be a bully, that's reflective that you really don't belong in that system, and that you see that I do have something to say, but you're not exactly knowing how to tap into a different path because you see the path before you. It's not very promising for a lot of people. Because how many people are going to go to college and pay the $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, get those student loans, and they come out trying to figure out what they're going to do for a living? And these colleges that are really prestigious, that could get you into a really great job out there, you got to pay a lot of money or be really, really good at what you're doing, get scholarships, or, your parents have connections. And so what do people do? They go to community college, and maybe they go into something like social services. And then they get to see the destruction in their community, and then it's just like, and then they end up, just not really making a difference. They're just perpetuating the destruction of the system. So this is just my word of advice for those that are in high school. Understand what the educational system is doing to you, how you can use the educational system. Learn your math, learn your English, learn how to write, learn a little bit of science, of course. Get some really good life skills, such as knowing how to write, knowing how to debate, knowing how to speak publicly, knowing how to articulate your thoughts in a manner such as this. So that way, when you finally see something that you don't agree with and you want to change, you're able to convey that. It won't take you 4 years to figure it out. Like it took me 4 years to be able to articulate, what I see as the future. So learn speech and debate, learn how to write a coherent sentence, learn how to write an essay, understand the basic laws of science, understand how to balance a checkbook, but now you really don't have to do that anymore because now you have everything in application. Learn how the world works, learn what politics and all that. And then you'll figure out, once you get life experience, where you're going to fit into our society. But I'll tell you what, the way parents are turning their kids into these robots, you're not giving your kid really a promising future. Now, yes, some of them will go into something like Virginia Tech, and then they go into something like Google or all of that, but that's not everybody's, that's not going to be a path for everybody. Okay? So I don't know. I mean, just think about it. But something like what I'm doing with the Jilly Juice is really geared for those that are not going down that college path, for those that have a very different thought process. Because we do need those that are very conform to, to computer science, because we need coders, we need all those things. But there are other kids that need something different. They want to do something different. They want to find a different way of doing things. They want to put all the different subject matters together and create something, a whole new thought process that I can't even think of because I'm still doing the Jilly Juice stuff. But what if you had a strength in something that you could then encapsulate everything that you've learned in college and put yourself in all these different classes, self-help, Werner Erhard, landmark education, different classes and different things. What is it? A jack of all trades, master of none? I was a jack of all trades. I put myself in so many different things. Luckily, I was raised in a family where I understood psychology, I understood law to some extent, and I understood biotechnology to some extent. And so, once you understand the main components of how a system is run, then you can evolutionize it and turn it into something different. Okay, so that's my word of advice. All right, bye.